I'm Tanya, 31F, and I find myself in the middle of a family storm that's been brewing for months. To understand the situation, you need to know a bit about my family background. I come from a large, close-knit family with 4 siblings: Lester, 35M, Rachel, 33F, myself, Nancy, 28F, and Zoe, 25F. Our parents, Sarah, 58F, and John, 60M, raised us in a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, often tasked with looking after my younger siblings and cousins during family gatherings and vacations. Our extended family is equally expansive. My mom has 3 sisters and 2 brothers, while my dad has 4 brothers. Family reunions are more like small festivals, with cousins, second cousins, and even third cousins in attendance. It's chaotic but usually fun, though as the eldest grandchild on both sides, I often found myself corralling the younger kids rather than enjoying the festivities. 3 years ago, my world turned upside down when I lost my husband, Ethan, would-be 34M, in a car accident. We had been high school sweethearts, married right after college, and had 2 beautiful children together, Emma, 10F, and Liam, 8M. Ethan's death was devastating, not just for me and the kids, but for our entire community. He had been a beloved high school teacher and coach, touching many lives. During that dark time, Ethan's childhood friend, Jake, 33M, became our lifeline. Jake and Ethan had been inseparable since kindergarten, even going to the same college before life took them in different directions. Jake moved back to our town about a year before Ethan's accident for a job opportunity, rekindling their friendship. After Ethan's passing, Jake stepped up in ways I never expected. He helped with the kids, taking them to school and sports practices when I was too overwhelmed. He fixed things around the house that I didn't even realize needed fixing. Most importantly, he was there to listen when I needed to talk or sit in comfortable silence when words failed me. About a year and a half after Ethan passed, Jake and I realized our feelings for each other had grown beyond friendship. It wasn't something either of us planned or expected. We were both hesitant, worried about what others might think and how it might affect the kids. But after many long talks, including conversations with a grief counselor, we decided to give it a chance. We approached Ethan's parents first, wanting their blessing before we went public with our relationship. To our relief, they were supportive. Ethan's mom, Linda, 62F, hugged me and said she was glad I had found happiness again, and that she knew Ethan would want that for me too. With their approval, we then told my family and the kids. The reactions were mixed. My brother Lester was immediately supportive, saying he was happy I had found someone who cared about me and the kids. My parents were cautiously optimistic, though I could tell my mom had reservations. Rachel and Zoe were surprised but came around quickly. Nancy, however, was noticeably cold about the idea. The kids' reactions were the ones I was most worried about. Emma, always perceptive beyond her years, admitted she had suspected something and said she was okay with it as long as we didn't expect her to call Jake Dad. Liam was more confused, asking lots of questions about what it meant for our family. We assured both of them that Jake wasn't trying to replace Ethan, but that he cared about us and wanted to be part of our lives. Over the next year and a half, Jake became an integral part of our family. He was patient with the kids, never pushing them but always there when they needed him. He even started coaching Liam's Little League team, something that initially made me nervous, as it had been Ethan's thing, but turned out to be healing for all of us. Last Christmas, Jake proposed. It wasn't a grand, public gesture, he knew that wasn't my style. Instead, after the kids were in bed and we were cleaning up from our small family Christmas dinner, he pulled out a ring and simply asked if I'd marry him. I said yes without hesitation. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding in June, just 6 months away. We wanted to keep it low-key, considering my previous marriage and the kids' feelings. The guest list would be limited to immediate family, close friends, and a few of Ethan's relatives who had remained close to us. Everything was going smoothly until my younger sister, Nancy, announced she was pregnant. Nancy and her husband Tom, 30M, had been trying for years. They had suffered through 2 miscarriages, and this pregnancy was considered high risk. Naturally, the family was overjoyed at the news. At first, everyone was excited about both events. But as time went on, I noticed a shift in my family's attitude. My mom started hinting that we should postpone our wedding. She said it wasn't fair to Nancy to have 2 big family events so close together, especially given Nancy's delicate condition. I explained that we had already booked the venue, sent out invitations, and that postponing wasn't an option. Things escalated when Nancy called me crying, saying I was stealing her thunder and that no one would care about her baby shower because they'd be too focused on my wedding. I was shocked. Nancy and I had always been close despite our age difference. When she was little, she would follow me around like a shadow, and I had always looked out for her. I reminded her that we had planned our wedding before her pregnancy announcement, and that there was plenty of time for both events. My other siblings started taking sides. Lester supported me, saying I shouldn't have to change my plans. But Rachel and Zoe sided with Nancy, calling me selfish for not considering her feelings. Rachel even brought up the fact that I had already been married once, implying that this wedding wasn't as important. The situation came to a head at our monthly family dinner last week. These dinners had been a tradition in our family for as long as I could remember, started by our grandmother as a way to keep the family close. Usually, they were filled with laughter, good food, and catching up. But this one was different. Nancy announced that her doctor had concerns about potential complications and recommended bed rest for the last month of her pregnancy. This meant she might not be able to attend our wedding. Instead of sympathy, I was met with accusations. My mom suggested we cancel the wedding altogether and just have a courthouse ceremony later. When I refused, she called me heartless and said I cared more about being the center of attention than my sister's health. Jake tried to mediate, suggesting we could live stream the ceremony for Nancy if she couldn't attend. But my family dismissed this idea, saying it wasn't the same. They insisted that if I truly cared about family, I would wait until after the baby was born to get married. I left the dinner in tears, feeling hurt and angry. Jake and I have put so much time, effort, and money into planning this wedding. We chose a date that worked for everyone, including Nancy, before her pregnancy. I feel like I'm being punished for something that's completely out of my control. My dad called me the next day. He's always been the peacemaker in the family, the calm presence in any storm. He said he understood my position but asked me to consider how Nancy might be feeling. He reminded me of how close Nancy and I used to be, recounting stories of how I used to let her sleep in my room when she had nightmares, or how I taught her to ride a bike. He suggested I talk to her one-on-one to clear the air. But honestly, I'm not sure I want to at this point. I love my sister and I'm thrilled about becoming an aunt. But I don't think it's fair to expect me to put my life on hold. Jake and I have waited patiently, considering my grieving process and the kids' adjustment. We're ready to start our new chapter together. Emma and Liam are excited about the wedding too. Emma has been helping me pick out decorations, and Liam is practicing hard for his role as ring bearer. They've both grown so much in the past 3 years, and seeing them bond with Jake has been incredible. I can't help but think about what Ethan would say if he were here. He always encouraged me to stand up for myself, even against family. But he also valued family harmony above almost everything else. I'm torn between honoring his memory by being strong and wondering if I'm being too stubborn. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to keep our wedding date? Should I give in to my family's pressure and postpone? I'm torn between standing my ground and keeping the peace. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1: It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation. Taking the suggestion of many commenters, I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Nancy. I invited her over for lunch when Tom was at work, hoping we could talk without any interruptions or influences. I spent the morning making Nancy's favorite meal, my grandmother's recipe for chicken pot pie. It was something I used to make for her when she was going through tough times in high school, and I hoped it might help break the ice. When Nancy arrived, she looked tired and stressed. The pregnancy was clearly taking a toll on her. We sat down to eat, and at first, the conversation was stilted and awkward. We made small talk about the weather and her pregnancy symptoms, carefully avoiding the elephant in the room. Finally, as we were finishing our meal, I broached the subject of the wedding. At first, Nancy was defensive, but as we talked, she broke down crying. It turns out, she's been dealing with a lot of anxiety about the pregnancy. Her previous attempts to conceive had ended in miscarriages, and she was terrified of losing this baby too. The doctor's warning about potential complications had heightened her fears. But there was more to it than that. Nancy confessed that she felt like she was living in my shadow. She explained that growing up, she always saw me as the perfect older sister, responsible, successful, married with kids. She admitted that part of her reaction to the wedding was rooted in her own insecurities. She told me about how she always felt like she was playing catch-up. When I got my first job at 16, working at the local library, Nancy had begged our parents to let her work too, even though she was only 13. When I got into my dream college, Nancy had cried for days, worried she'd never be able to match up. Even my marriage to Ethan and having kids had made her feel like she was falling behind in life. I was stunned. I had no idea Nancy felt this way. In my eyes, Nancy had always been the free spirit of the family, the one who followed her passions without worrying about conventional success. I shared my own struggles with her, The pain of losing Ethan, the challenges of being a single mom, and my fears about starting a new relationship with Jake. I told her about the nights I spent crying after the kids were in bed, feeling overwhelmed and alone. I confessed that there were times I envied her freedom, her ability to pursue her dreams without the responsibilities I had. We cried together, and for the first time in years, I felt like I truly connected with my sister. By the end of our conversation, Nancy apologized for her behavior and said she wanted to support my wedding. She even offered to help with some of the planning she could do from home during her bed rest. We spent the rest of the afternoon looking through wedding magazines and websites, just like we used to do when we were teenagers dreaming about our future weddings. Encouraged by this breakthrough, I decided to talk to my mom. I invited her over for coffee the next day, after dropping the kids off at school. Mom has always been a force of nature, strong-willed and opinionated. But as she sat at my kitchen table, clutching her mug of coffee, she looked older and more tired than I'd ever seen her. I explained Nancy's feelings and my own perspective. Mom listened, and while she didn't fully agree with me, she understood better where I was coming from. She shared her own fears about Nancy's pregnancy, admitting that part of her insistence on postponing the wedding was due to her anxiety about the baby. We talked for hours, delving into family history and long-held assumptions. Mom told me stories about her own sisters, and the rivalries and misunderstandings that had shaped their relationships over the years. She agreed to stop pushing for a postponement and to help mediate with the rest of the family. Things seemed to be looking up, but then another complication arose. Jake's parents, who live overseas, called to say they couldn't make it to the wedding in June due to his father's unexpected surgery. They asked if we could consider moving the date to August when they'd be able to travel. Jake and I had a long discussion about this. On one hand, we didn't want to give in to the pressure from my family. On the other, we both felt it was important for his parents to be there. Jake's relationship with his parents had been strained for years, ever since he decided not to join the family business and pursue his own career instead. This wedding was a chance for reconciliation, and we didn't want to miss that opportunity. After much deliberation, we decided to postpone the wedding to August. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt right. When we announced this decision to my family, their reactions were mixed. Nancy was genuinely apologetic, saying she felt terrible that we were changing our plans. My mom seemed relieved but tried not to show it too much. Lester was supportive as always, while Rachel and Zoe were suspiciously quiet. I made it clear to everyone that this decision was made solely because of Jake's parents, not because of any pressure from them. I also set some firm boundaries, stating that I wouldn't tolerate any more drama or attempts to control our plans. The silver lining in all of this is that the venue we had booked for June had an opening in August, so we didn't lose our deposit. Plus, the later date means we have more time to plan and save up for some extras we initially couldn't afford. Jake has been my rock through all of this. He's been patient, understanding, and always on my side. Seeing how he handles family drama makes me even more certain that I want to spend my life with him. Last night, as we were discussing seating arrangements, he looked at me and said, "You know, all this drama will be worth it when I get to call you my wife." It reminded me of why we're doing this in the first place. As for Nancy, we've been talking more frequently. She's been sticking to her promise to help with the wedding planning, sending me ideas for decorations and music playlists. It feels like we're rebuilding our relationship, which is something I hadn't realized we needed. The kids have been great through all of this too. When we told them about the date change, Emma immediately started planning how to repurpose her flower girl dress for the later summer date. Liam was just excited that he'd have more time to practice his ring bearer walk. The next big event on the horizon is Nancy's baby shower next month. I'm determined to make it special for her, to show that I'm just as excited about her baby as I am about my wedding. I've been working with Rachel and Zoe to plan it, which has helped smooth over some of the tension from earlier. As I write this, I feel a mix of emotions, relief, anticipation, and a bit of lingering anxiety. But mostly, I feel hopeful. Hopeful for my future with Jake, for Nancy's baby, and for our family's ability to come together despite our differences. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I'm writing this with a whirlwind of emotions. A lot has happened, and not all of it good. First, the positive news: Nancy gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Sophia, 3 weeks ago. Despite the earlier concerns, both mom and baby are healthy. The family has rallied around them, and it's been heartwarming to see everyone come together. I was there at the hospital just hours after Sophia was born, and holding my niece for the first time was an incredible experience. It brought back memories of when Emma and Liam were born, and I found myself sharing stories with Nancy about those early days of motherhood. Jake and I have been busy with the final preparations for our August wedding. Everything was going smoothly, and we were excited about the big day. We had finally settled on a color scheme, chosen the menu for the reception, and Jake had even convinced me to take dance lessons for our first dance. The kids were getting excited too, Emma had been practicing her flower girl walk every day, and Liam had memorized his lines for the ring bearer ceremony. That is, until last week when a bombshell was dropped on us. My cousin Andrea, 29F, announced that she and her longtime boyfriend, Chris, 31M, had eloped last month. They hadn't told anyone because they wanted to surprise the family at the next big gathering, which happened to be my wedding. Andrea and I have always been close. We're only 2 years apart in age, and growing up, we were more like sisters than cousins. We shared clothes, crushes, and secrets. When I started dating Ethan in high school, Andrea was the first person I told. And when Ethan died, Andrea was by my side almost as much as Jake was, helping with the kids and making sure I remembered to eat and sleep. So when she told me about her elopement, I was initially thrilled for her. Andrea and Chris had been together for years, weathering long-distance periods and family disapproval. Chris comes from a very different background than our family. I knew how much they loved each other and how long they had waited for this. But then Andrea asked if they could use our wedding reception to announce their marriage and celebrate with the family. She said it would be perfect, everyone would already be gathered, dressed up, and in a celebratory mood. Plus, she argued, it would take some of the attention off Jake and me, which she thought might make us more comfortable given my previous marriage. I was taken aback. I tried to explain gently that while I was thrilled for them, I didn't feel comfortable with them making such a big announcement at our wedding. I suggested we could plan a separate family gathering to celebrate their union, maybe a big barbecue at our grandparents' farm where we used to spend summers as kids. Andrea didn't take this well. She accused me of being selfish and said I was trying to hog all the attention. She brought up the fact that we had already postponed our wedding once and questioned why we couldn't share the spotlight. She even mentioned that since this was my second wedding, it shouldn't be such a big deal to me. That last comment stung more than I let on. Yes, this was my second wedding, but that didn't make it any less important or meaningful. If anything, it made it more significant because I knew exactly how precious and fragile love and life could be. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. Andrea told other family members about our conversation, painting me as the villain. Some relatives, including my Aunt Linda, 55F, and Uncle Paul, 57M, started pressuring me to let Andrea and Chris make their announcement. They argued that it would be a beautiful moment of family unity and that it would make the day even more special. My mom, who I thought was finally on my side, suggested that letting Andrea share our day would be a nice gesture and would bring the family together. She reminded me of all the times Andrea had been there for me, especially after Ethan's death. Even Nancy, who had been supportive lately, said she thought it might be a good idea, though I suspect she was just trying to keep the peace while dealing with a newborn. I was hurt and frustrated. After all the drama with Nancy's pregnancy and the postponement, I thought we were finally going to have our day. Jake was furious. He pointed out that we had already compromised once and that it wasn't fair for the family to keep making demands. He was particularly upset because he felt like the family still saw him as an outsider, not fully understanding or respecting our relationship. The situation came to a head at a family barbecue last weekend. It was supposed to be a casual get-together to celebrate Sophia's birth, but it quickly turned into a heated discussion about the wedding. Andrea confronted me in front of everyone, accusing me of being a bridezilla and trying to overshadow her happiness. She brought up childhood promises we'd made about being in each other's weddings and sharing our special moments. I lost my cool and told her that if she wanted a big wedding celebration, she shouldn't have eloped. I reminded her that she had chosen to keep her marriage a secret and that it wasn't fair to hijack our wedding for her reveal. The words came out harsher than I intended, and the hurt look on Andrea's face made me immediately regret my outburst. The barbecue ended in chaos, with family members taking sides and arguing. Jake and I left early, both of us upset and overwhelmed. On the drive home, we sat in silence, the weight of the situation hanging heavy between us. The kids, picking up on the tension, were unusually quiet in the backseat. Now, with just 3 weeks to go until our wedding, I'm at a loss. Part of me wants to stand my ground and have the wedding we've planned and dreamed of. We've put so much thought into every detail, from the personalized vows we've written to the special dance Jake has been practicing with Emma. It feels wrong to have to share that intimate moment with another couple's announcement. Another part of me is so tired of the family drama that I'm tempted to cancel everything and elope ourselves. Jake and I have talked about it, just taking the kids and going somewhere beautiful and quiet to exchange our vows without all the fuss and family complications. Jake says he'll support whatever decision I make, but I can see the strain this is putting on him too. He's frustrated with my family's behavior and feels like they don't respect our relationship. Last night, he confessed that he's worried all this drama is making me have second thoughts about marrying him. I assured him that wasn't the case at all. If anything, this whole ordeal has made me more certain that he's the one I want to spend my life with. His patience, understanding, and unwavering support through all of this have shown me the depth of his love and commitment. I love my family, but I'm starting to wonder if all this stress is worth it. Should I give in to Andrea's request to keep the peace? Should we go ahead with our plans and risk further family conflict? Or should we just cut our losses and elope? I never imagined planning a wedding could tear my family apart like this. Any advice on how to handle this situation would be greatly appreciated. Update 3. It's been a whirlwind few weeks since my last update, and I'm finally sitting down to share what happened. After much soul-searching and long discussions with Jake, we decided to stick to our original wedding plans. We realized that if we kept giving in to family demands, it would never end. We sent out a clear message to everyone: our wedding would be about celebrating our love and starting our new life together. Any drama or attempts to hijack the event would not be tolerated. To our surprise, this firm stance actually seemed to work. Most of the family backed off, and even Andrea apologized for her behavior, though I suspect Aunt Linda had a hand in that. Andrea and I had a long, tearful conversation where we both admitted to letting our emotions get the better of us. We agreed to plan a separate party to celebrate her marriage after our honeymoon. The week before the wedding was hectic but mostly drama-free. Then, 2 days before the big day, we got an unexpected call. Jake's parents' flight had been canceled due to a sudden airline strike. They were devastated, and so were we, especially since postponing the wedding for them was the reason for all the family conflict. But Jake had an idea. He suggested we set up a live stream of the ceremony and have a laptop at the reception so his parents could virtually attend. Our tech-savvy nephew, Kevin, 17M, volunteered to handle all the technical aspects. It wasn't ideal, but it was the best we could do under the circumstances. The day of the wedding arrived, and despite my nerves, everything went beautifully. Walking down the aisle and seeing Jake's face, all the family drama faded away. Our vows were heartfelt, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house, or on the live stream. Emma did a perfect job as the flower girl, and Liam managed to carry the rings without dropping them, though he did trip a little on his way down the aisle, which everyone found adorable. At the reception, we had Jake's parents on a big screen, and they gave a touching speech that had everyone laughing and crying. It wasn't the same as having them there in person, but it was special in its own way. Jake's mom even got to have a virtual dance with her son, which was a bit awkward but very sweet. To my relief, Andrea and Chris respected our wishes and didn't make any big announcements. Instead, they pulled us aside privately to congratulate us and apologize again for the earlier drama. We agreed to help them plan a family party to celebrate their marriage in a few months. Nancy was able to attend with baby Sophia, who was surprisingly well behaved throughout the ceremony. Seeing Nancy beam with pride as she introduced her daughter to everyone made me realize how silly our earlier conflict had been. We shared a moment during the reception where we both acknowledged how far we'd come in the past few months. The biggest surprise of the day came from my parents. They presented us with a gift, a scrapbook filled with messages and photos from family members who couldn't attend, including some relatives we hadn't heard from in years. It was their way of showing that despite the recent conflicts, our family bond was still strong. It was a gesture that meant more to me than any expensive gift could have. As Jake and I danced our first dance as a married couple, I felt an overwhelming sense of joy and relief. We had weathered the storm of family drama and come out stronger for it. Looking around the room at our laughing, dancing family and friends, I realized that all the stress and conflict had been worth it for this moment of pure happiness. Jake and I are now looking forward to our honeymoon and the start of our new life together. We're grateful for the love and support we received on our wedding day, and we're excited for what the future holds. Emma and Liam are thrilled to officially have Jake as their stepdad, though as Emma predicted years ago, they still don't call him dad. To everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey, thank you. Your words helped me stay strong and true to myself during a challenging time. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that love, whether it's for your partner or your family, sometimes requires standing firm in what you believe is right.